In the world of the ultra-wealthy, Russian oligarchs have long been a symbol of extravagant luxury. Imagine a life where the world is your playground, where super yachts serve as summer homes and private jets are the equivalent of a family car. Sprawling estates sprawl across the globe, from the sun-kissed beaches of the Mediterranean to the snow-capped peaks of the Swiss Alps. This is the world of the Russian oligarchs, a world where the word extravagance barely scratches the surface. But who are these oligarchs, you might ask? The term oligarch is derived from the Greek words oligos, which means few, and archo, which means to rule. They are, in essence, members of a small group holding substantial power. In the context of Russia, the term oligarch has been used to describe the business tycoons who emerged after the fall of the Soviet Union in the early 90s. But as sudden as their rise to opulence was, so too was their downfall, brought about by the harsh realities of war. War is a great leveler, and the conflict between Russia and Ukraine was no exception. It stirred up a hornet's nest of international condemnation, leading to a series of crippling sanctions against Russia. These sanctions, however, did not merely affect the country as a whole. They went right up to the top, striking at the heart of the Russian elite, the oligarchs. These powerful individuals, who had amassed unimaginable wealth and influence in the post-Soviet era, suddenly found themselves in the firing line. The European Union, in particular, took a strong stance. A task force named Freeze and Seize was established, with countries like Germany, France and Belgium leading the charge. Their mission: to freeze and seize assets owned by Russian oligarchs. Picture this: magnificent super yachts anchored indefinitely, luxury properties lying vacant, private jets grounded, $14 billion worth of assets, once symbols of untold riches, now evidence of a spectacular fall from grace. The sanctions were not just about financial punishment, they were a clear message to the oligarchs and to Russia as a whole, that actions have consequences and that the international community was willing to take a stand. Justice Commissioner Didier Reynders led the call for expanding the definition of crimes to include sanctions breaches. This move was supported by the European Parliament, and it further tightened the screws on the oligarchs. The life of affluence they once enjoyed across Europe was now under serious threat. The war had turned their world upside down, their once untouchable wealth now in the crosshairs of international sanctions. The war and its aftermath had proven to be a game changer, not just for the oligarchs, but for the global perception of wealth and power. As the war raged on, the once invincible oligarchs found themselves on shaky ground. The European Union, in a bid to curtail their influence and power, tightened the screws on these Russian magnates. A task force named Freeze and Seize was established, setting in motion a wave of asset seizures that would shake the oligarchs to their core. In the blink of an eye, billions of dollars worth of assets were seized. Super yachts, once the symbol of their opulence, were now held captive in European harbors. Luxurious properties sprawling across Europe's most exclusive locales were confiscated. Private jets, once the oligarchs' wings to the world, were grounded. The magnitude of these actions was unprecedented, and it sent shockwaves through the circles of the Russian elite. The sanctions weren't just a blow to their material possessions, but also to their societal standing. The oligarchs, who had once held sway in the corridors of power, found their influence waning. Their status as untouchables, which they had enjoyed for so long, was being stripped away. The world watched as these titans of industry, once the epitome of wealth and power, were brought down to earth. High-profile cases began to emerge, shedding light on the extent of the crackdown. The world watched as these once untouchable figures were held accountable. Their fortunes, amassed over decades, were suddenly under threat. The lifestyle they had grown accustomed to, one of unparalleled luxury and influence, was slipping through their fingers. Their empires, built on a foundation of wealth, were crumbling, their affluence fading as quickly as it had appeared. The downfall of the oligarchs served as a stark reminder of the transient nature of power and wealth. As we delve deeper into their journey in the next scene, we'll explore the lessons that can be gleaned from their rise and fall. The rise and fall of the Russian oligarchs offer us profound lessons about wealth, power, and the unpredictable nature of world events. Firstly, it underscores the transient nature of wealth. The oligarchs, once considered the untouchable elite, saw their fortunes dwindle in the face of international sanctions. Lavish lifestyles, fancy yachts and opulent mansions were no match for the sweeping power of political decisions. This is a stark reminder that wealth, especially when built upon shaky foundations, can be as ephemeral as a mirage. Secondly, their story brings into sharp focus the repercussions of political actions on individual fortunes. The oligarchs' wealth was heavily intertwined with the political landscape of Russia. When the political tide turned against them, their fortunes took a hit. Here lies an important lesson about the dangers of intertwining wealth with politics. Wealth that is deeply rooted in political favor can vanish as quickly as it appeared when the winds of politics shift. Lastly, the fall of the Russian oligarchs highlights the importance of economic diversification. Many of these wealthy individuals had their assets concentrated in a single country or sector. When sanctions hit, their lack of diversification left them vulnerable. This serves as a cautionary tale for those who put all their eggs in one basket, emphasizing the importance of spreading one's assets across different sectors and regions. The rise and fall of the Russian oligarchs is not just a story of personal fortunes made and lost. It's a tale of how political actions can shape personal destinies, of how wealth can be fleeting, and of the importance of diversification. It's a narrative that holds valuable lessons for us all, whether we are billionaires or just ordinary folk. The oligarch's tale serves as a stark reminder of the precarious balance between wealth and power. As we reflect on the journey of the Russian oligarchs, we are reminded of the volatility of fortune. It's a tale as old as time. A quintessential rise and fall narrative that has played out in the opulent halls of Moscow and the luxurious villas of Europe. The oligarchs, once mere men, ascended to the echelons of wealth and power, their fortunes intertwined with the fate of post-Soviet Russia. Their rise was nothing short of meteoric. From the ashes of the Soviet Union, they emerged, seizing opportunities and amassing wealth beyond imagination. They lived lives of affluence, their super yachts, lavish properties, and private jets becoming symbols of their success. But as they soared, they became entangled in a web of political machinations and international tensions. The war with Ukraine was a turning point. Europe tightened its grip, imposing sanctions that shook the very foundations of the oligarchs' affluence. Assets were seized, properties were confiscated, and the oligarchs found themselves caught in a storm of their own making. Their once unassailable positions were threatened, their fortunes dwindling as quickly as they had been amassed. So what does the future hold for these titans of industry and commerce? In the face of increasing international pressure and the changing political landscape, their path is uncertain. Some may weather the storm, leveraging their vast resources and connections. Others may see their empires crumble, their wealth a mere memory of a bygone era. But one thing is certain. The story of the Russian oligarchs serves as a stark reminder of the fleeting nature of wealth and power. It's a lesson the world would do well to remember. For in the end, fortune is fickle, and even the mightiest can fall. From their meteoric rise to their sudden downfall, the Russian oligarch's story is a poignant reflection on the fleeting nature of wealth and power.